The teller swiped my mother's old card, and the moment the reader beeped, his entire body went still. His hand hovered in the air like he had touched something dangerous. I opened my mouth to explain again that the card was ancient, but he didn't look at me. He only stared at the screen as if something on it had knocked the breath out of him. "Ma'am," he said, voice cracking. "Please wait one moment." He pressed a button under the counter. 2 security guards walked toward us, not running, not shouting, just moving with purpose. That scared me more than anything. "My name is Margaret Ellison," I blurted out. "I have done nothing wrong. That card belonged to my mother. I only came to check." The teller swallowed hard and stepped back. A woman in a navy blazer approached her name tag. Read, Elaine Harper, branch manager. She gave me a tight smile that did nothing to calm the shaking in my chest. "Mrs. Ellison," she said quietly, "I need you to come with me. Right now." Her voice wasn't threatening. It was urgent. Too urgent. The guard stayed behind me as she led me down a narrow hallway. My palms were sweating so badly, I almost dropped my purse. Inside my head, every fear I ever had came crashing down all at once. Identity theft, an old debt of my mother's. Some error that somehow made me look like a criminal. At 74 years old, I did not have the strength for any of this. Elaine opened the small office door. "Please sit," she said, closing it behind us. She turned her computer monitor toward me, then paused with her hand on its edge. "Before I show you this, I need to confirm a few things about your mother." My fingers curled around the arms of the chair. My voice shook. Her name was Isabella Ellison. "I can answer whatever you need." Elaine hesitated, then slowly began to rotate the screen. My stomach twisted. 3 days earlier, I had been standing on the sidewalk with one suitcase, watching the life I built disappear behind a locked door. 3 days earlier, I stood on the front steps of the home I had tended for more than 20 years, holding the handle of a single suitcase. My ex-husband, Howard Ellison, leaned against the doorway with his arms folded, as if he were dismissing a guest who had overstayed her welcome. "Everything is in my name. Maggie," he said. His voice had that flat, rehearsed tone I had learned to fear. "The house, the car, the savings. You signed the papers. The divorce is finalized. I signed what you told me to sign." I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "You said it was just procedure." Howard shrugged. "You should have read them." Behind him, her arms wrapped casually around his waist, stood Trisha Lane, his assistant. At least that was what he called her for the past 2 years. She wore one of my old cardigans, sleeves pushed up, acting like she belonged in a place I had built with my own hands. Trisha gave me a pitying smile. "This is healthier for everyone, Margaret. You deserve a gentler environment. Do not speak to me as if you know anything about what I deserve," I snapped. Howard lifted a hand. "There is no point in making this dramatic. I am giving you a clean break." "A clean break," my throat tightened. "You are giving me nothing." He sighed, as though I were exhausting him. "You have your pension. You will manage." I looked at him, at the man I once trusted to hold my life, and all I saw was distance, calculation, and the satisfaction of someone who had already moved on. Trisha pressed a kiss to his shoulder, a little too quickly, and he didn't bother to hide how much he liked it. I pulled my suitcase down the steps. Howard didn't follow. Trisha closed the door behind him as if sealing a chapter I hadn't agreed to end. In my purse sat less than $60, crumpled from being held too tightly. My legs felt heavy as I walked down the sidewalk, past neighbors pretending not to stare, swallowing the bitterness rising in my throat. I tightened my grip on the suitcase handle and kept walking, unsure where I was supposed to go next. The clerk at the Eastport Budget Inn barely glanced at me as she slid the keycard across the counter. "Weekly rates cheaper," she said. Her name tag read Sonia, and her tone was kind enough, but I still felt the sting of humiliation. "I will take the weekly," I murmured, passing her the small amount of cash I had. After the payment, I counted what remained, $42 from my pension check, all of it suddenly too precious to breathe near. The room smelled faintly of mildew and old carpet. I set my suitcase on the wobbly chair and sat on the edge of the bed. From the room next door, voices argued loudly, a door slammed, and someone started laughing too hard. I rubbed my temples. For a moment, I considered calling my son Paul. He would pick up. But the first thing he would ask was why I didn't fight for a better settlement. My daughter Denise would be worse. She would offer help but lace it with judgment. I was too tired to be scolded by my own children. I opened my suitcase, hoping maybe I had overlooked a forgotten bill. A ring. Something I could sell. All I found were clothes folded tightly to make everything fit and a few books I had packed without thinking. Then I saw it. A small velvet pouch, pushed deep into one of the side pockets. I froze. I had not seen that pouch in years, not since my mother tucked it into my drawer before she passed. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single, faded bank card wrapped in a handkerchief, embroidered with her initials. A slip of yellowing paper fell into my lap. "For the day the world turns too hard. Love, Mama." I pressed the paper between my fingers. My mother had lived her whole life with nothing more than faith and grit. She never spoke of savings or secrets. I stared at the card, guilt pooling in my chest. If she kept this hidden, she had her reasons. But I had no home, no car, no money, and no one to call. Hope and shame tangled inside me as I slipped the card back into the pouch and held it against my chest. I sat on the motel bed with the velvet pouch in my hands, and for a moment I could almost feel my mother's fingers guiding mine, the way she used to when she threaded a needle. Isabel Romero Ellison had worked in the North Portland garment factories her entire life, stitching coats for people who would never know her name. She used to come home with her shoulders aching and her palms raw, yet she always smiled when she saw me. "You save for tomorrow, mija," she used to say, tucking away quarters in jars. I never believed she saved much. I thought she had nothing to save. But holding that card now, I wondered if I had misunderstood everything. The next morning, I walked into Harbor Crest National Bank with the pouch in my coat pocket. The lobby was full of polished floors and polished people. A man in a tailored suit glanced at my thrift store coat, then looked away quickly. I kept my chin up. At the counter, the teller smiled politely. "How can I help you today?" "I have an old card," I said, placing it carefully on the counter. "It belonged to my mother. I just want to check if it still works." He picked it up and frowned at the faded numbers. "This is quite old." "Ma'am, let me try." He swiped it once, then twice, and then his eyes widened. The same way they had in the memory that had pulled me back to this moment. His lips parted, and he whispered, "1 second, please." Before pressing a button under the counter, 2 guards stepped forward. My heart hammered. "What is going on?" I asked. Before he could answer, a familiar voice approached Elaine Harper, the manager who had led me into the back room days later, but now, in this earlier moment, she simply gave me a strained smile. "Mrs. Ellison, may I speak with you privately? I have done nothing wrong," I said, my hands trembling. "We know," Elaine replied softly, "but we need to verify a few things about your mother." She led me to a small office and closed the door. After checking my identification and asking about Isabel's maiden name, she finally turned her monitor toward me. "Your mother owned land decades ago," she said. "She negotiated a profit-sharing agreement with the developers who built the Portland Tech Park. She placed it all in an irrevocable trust, and she locked all communication until you came in person with this exact card." I stared at the screen, breath caught in my chest. as the truth began to form like a shadow I had never seen before. Elaine folded her hands on the desk, her expression tightening. Mrs. Ellison, there is something else you need to know. My grip on the chair strengthened. What now? 3 months ago, she said carefully, someone attempted to access this account using your name and your social security number. I felt the air leave my lungs. That is impossible. I did not even remember this card existed. That is exactly why it was flagged as fraud, Elaine said. The bank denied the request and placed a security alert on the trust. The room tilted slightly. 3 months ago, Howard had pushed the divorce papers under my nose. He insisted we needed to finalize everything quickly. He claimed it was for tax reasons. He claimed we both needed a clean break. I remembered the way he hovered while I signed, the way he refused to let me take the documents to a separate attorney. I know who it was. I whispered. Elaine did not respond, but the pity in her eyes told me she had already guessed. When I left the bank that afternoon, I walked directly to a downtown office building, the card still clutched in my hand. A receptionist greeted me with a warm smile. You must be Mrs. Ellison. Mr. Hale is expecting you. Victor Hale, a trust and estate attorney with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind, rose to shake my hand. Elaine briefed me. Please, sit. Tell me everything. I told him about the sudden divorce, about Trisha, about years of slowly losing ground without noticing. Victor listened without interrupting, jotting notes with quick strokes. When I finished, he leaned back. Your husband did not blindside you by accident. He hired a private investigator shortly before the divorce. My jaw tightened. To look for what your mother, Victor said, her employment history, property records, old tax returns, anything. He tapped his pen once. The investigator found that she owned a small piece of land decades ago, land that later became part of a major development. My stomach twisted again. Howard put the pieces together. Victor continued. He suspected you were the beneficiary of something substantial. He could not reach it legally. So he stripped you of everything else before you discovered it. I closed my eyes. The betrayal settling deeper than the coldest winter air. He wanted to take it all, I said. Victor nodded. And now he knows you have nothing left to lose. The news spread faster than I could understand. I had told no one except Victor, and Elaine had assured me the bank handled trusts with absolute confidentiality. But whispers have a way of slipping through cracks, especially when numbers with too many zeros are involved. My son Paul showed up at the motel first. He knocked softly, as if he were the compassionate one. When I opened the door, he forced a smile. Mom, I heard you were having a rough time. Thought I should check on you. I stepped aside. Come in, Paul. He looked around the cramped room with a wince he tried to hide. You should not be living like this. Maybe we can talk about, I do not know, long-term family planning. Family planning, I repeated, or your debt. His smile cracked. I am not asking for a handout. Just guidance. If you have resources coming, it makes sense to manage them together. Resources you somehow already know about. I said. He swallowed hard. Mom, I just want us to be smart. Before I could respond, a sharp knock hit the door. My daughter Denise strode in without waiting to be invited, eyes blazing. So it is true, she snapped. Grandma left you something, and you hid it from us while she lived like a pauper. Denise, do not Denise me. I cannot believe you kept money from your own family. I did not keep anything. I said, I only learned about it yesterday. Denise folded her arms. That card was in your things for years. You should have checked. You should have thought about us. Paul nodded, suddenly bold now that Denise had started the attack. We have children, responsibilities. You owe it to everyone to be transparent. They had been so quick to take Howard's side, so quick to say I gave up too easily, that I did not understand how divorce worked. that I should not expect them to get involved. Now suddenly, I was the center of their urgency. Before I could gather myself, another knock came, harder, more familiar. Howard pushed past Paul. "We need to talk." He said, "I know about the trust." I stepped in front of him. "You need to leave." He scoffed. "After 12 years of marriage, I deserve compensation. You would not have anything without me." "That is the lie you told for years," I said, "and I am finished believing it." His eyes flashed, shocked that I'd raised my voice. "No one here is getting anything from me tonight." I said, "Not you, not either of you." Paul stared. Denise's mouth fell open. Howard clenched his jaw. For the first time in a long time, the room belonged to me. Victor closed the folder with a soft thud, the sound heavier than anything he had said so far. "Maggie," he began, "you are in a position to end Howard's entire operation. Legally, cleanly." I folded my hands in my lap. "How he is drowning in debt." Victor said, "Short-term loans, unpaid supplier fees, unpaid claims. If you choose to, you can purchase those debts through a holding entity. Once you own them, you can call them in. His company collapses. He loses everything he stripped from you." I pictured Howard standing on the sidewalk, arms folded, telling me to leave my own home. I pictured Tricia smirking behind him. I pictured myself dragging my suitcase through the cold. For a moment, I felt the pull of that power, the temptation to hand him the same emptiness he handed me. But then another image surfaced. My mother, Isabella, walking home in the rain with her coat patched in 3 places. She used to stop to give half of her dinner to the neighbor down the hall. She sewed free hems for women who could not afford repairs. "Power tempts the wounded more than the wicked," she said once, drying my tears after an argument with a schoolmate. "But you are stronger than what hurts you." I rubbed my palms together, grounding myself. "I do not want to become him," I said quietly. Victor nodded. "Then there is another route." He opened a second file, thicker, filled with documents I had never seen. These are complaints from clients he defrauded. False policies, withheld payouts, altered signatures. This is not fabricated. These are all on record. I hesitated. If I turn that in, the investigation will ruin him. "It will protect others," Victor said. "It will stop him from hurting more people." I looked down at the papers. One woman's name was highlighted. She had lost her home because a claim Howard promised to process had never been filed. Another man had been sold a fake life insurance policy for his wife. My throat tightened. He caused this. "And now you decide what happens next," Victor said. I closed the file. "I will not buy his debts." I said, "I will not push him into the street." Victor waited, but I will not let him escape consequences. I gathered every document, every complaint, every signed page that bore Howard's handwriting. "I will submit this anonymously," I said, "and let the truth do what it needs to do." I submitted the evidence quietly, no signature, no explanation, no desire to be thanked. One envelope went to the Oregon Insurance Commission, another to the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office, a third set of documents to the banks Howard had lied to and borrowed from. Each packet filled with every altered signature, every delayed payout, every client complaint he had buried. Victor only asked, "Are you sure you want to do it this way?" "Yes," I said. "The truth will speak for itself." 2 weeks later, the headlines began. Portland insurance firm under investigation for fraud. Unauthorized policies sold across Multnomah County. Then came the day the investigators raided his office. I heard about it from Victor first. They walked in with a full team. He said his assistant ran the moment they arrived. "Tricia," I asked. She was gone before they finished reading the warrant. I pictured her grabbing her purse and slipping out the back door, the same way she had slipped into my marriage quietly, selfishly, without apology. By the end of the week, Howard's license was suspended. By the end of the second week, his business accounts were frozen. By the end of the month, banks began filing claims for the money he owed. The courthouse hearing was open to the public. I almost did not go. But something in me needed to see the truth with my own eyes. Howard stood in front of the judge looking much smaller than I remembered. His suit hung wrong. His cheeks were sunken, and the sharpness he once carried had collapsed into something like panic. He spotted me in the back row. "Maggie," he called, pushing past his attorney. "Please wait." I remained seated. He walked toward me, voice cracking. "You have money now. You can help me. I supported you for 12 years. You owe me something." "I owe you nothing," I said. His eyes widened, desperate. "Please, do not let them do this." I stood, steady for the first time in years. "You taught me how to survive without kindness." I said quietly, "I am simply returning the lesson." He froze. For once, he had no comeback. Minutes later, the judge announced the charges: insurance fraud and elder exploitation. When I left the courthouse, the foundation papers were already signed. The Isabel Fund, named after the woman who held my world together with thread and faith, would offer housing grants, legal aid, and emergency support to older women left behind by men like Howard. The first donations went out within a week. The first thank you letter arrived the week after. And just like that, the life he tried to destroy became the life I finally began to build. The apartment I found sat on the 4th floor of an older brick building overlooking the Willamette River. It was nothing extravagant: 2 bedrooms, wide windows, floors that creaked softly. But when I unlocked the door for the first time, the air felt like something I had not breathed in years. My own. A week later, the Isabel Fund hosted a small gathering at a community center in North Portland. Victor stood by the refreshments, smiling proudly as the women we had helped filtered into the room, women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, each carrying quiet stories of survival. One woman, Darlene, approached me with trembling hands. "Your grant helped me leave a house where I was not safe," she said. "I have a room now, a bed. I sleep without fear." Another, Joyce, squeezed my arm. "Your legal team got my pension back. I thought I would lose everything." Their words cracked something open in me. I felt my throat tighten as I listened, each story echoing the pain I had lived, each voice reflecting a part of me I had once been too scared to acknowledge. When the speeches ended, I stepped aside, needing air. Victor came over gently. "You did this," he said. "Your mother would be proud." "I think she knew this moment would come," I whispered. The next morning, I rode the bus to Riverview Cemetery, the velvet pouch tucked inside my coat. My mother's headstone sat beneath a maple tree, simple and unassuming, exactly as she would have wanted. I knelt beside it. "Hi, Mama," I said softly. "I finally understand." I placed a single rose against the stone, then laid the velvet pouch beside it. The card inside had already changed my life. I no longer needed to keep it. "You gave me more than money," I continued. "You gave me the strength to end what hurt us. You gave me the chance to become someone I did not know I could be." A breeze moved through the leaves, brushing my cheek like a familiar hand. As I stood to leave, I felt lighter, not because of what I had gained, but because of what I had finally let go. Before that card, I thought my story was over. After it, everything began again. If this story touched you, remember to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more real stories of resilience.